is a house that can be built from the components described in our previous conversation. You can see that it looks just like any other house. I choose to call it the time bomb house. Time bomb because it can be built very quickly. A couple of guys working together can build this house comfortably in a week, ready for occupation. Using the components already illustrated, simple bolt-together connections, this house can be ready for occupancy quite comfortably at the rate of a linear foot a minute. Hello, Neil. How are you?
Good, thank you. Bill Dodds has a dream too. He thinks he's found a way of giving people homes that are cheap, structurally sound and energy efficient. His secret? Plastic. There's not one bit of steel or timber needed to build this house. The whole thing can be made of plastic. This particular house is finished with plasterboard and timber as a concession to conventional building tastes, but the shell, walls, floor and roof, everything else is plastic. But not just any kind of plastic. Bill and his son Simon have their own secret formula. Bill won't tell us what's in it, but according to his successful building accreditation applications, Bill's houses are more durable and less toxic in the event of a house fire than timber houses, and resistant to earthquakes, cyclones and termites. In fact, Bill's houses exceed all Australian building standards. It's a house that fits like Lego with the other pieces. Plastics are energy efficient. The plastic house uses less energy than conventional houses at every stage of production. And because of the air trapped in its walls, the plastic house requires less energy for winter heating. The plastic house is 10 times more energy efficient than the average Australian home. This small 2.5 kilowatt heater heats the entire house. That's an 85 to 90% saving in electricity use every year. Since Bill Dodds perfected the technique of making houses out of plastic. Today, he's more certain than ever that it's the way to house the world. But it hasn't happened. His story is a perfect illustration of the difficulties you face when you try to change the way people think and when you're up against powerful vested interests.
Sideways. Okay, I want to try to get a sideways shot of it here if I can. Okay. Okay, now you see this unit right here? This is a big tire. It could be a truck tire. They just had a smaller tire for getting indoors. But imagine this as a big truck tire. Right over here, we got a hydraulic motor, electric motor that is going to power a hydraulic drive. And by the way, the pressure on this hydraulic drive is 70 pounds per square inch. Now this is a big hydraulic, this is a big truck tire, and over here is a hydraulic motor. So built right into the hub of this truck tire is a hydraulic motor. So we can put the hydraulic motor right into the hub of the truck tire. This hydraulic motor here, by the way, will give you 500 horsepower of torque. So it runs at 500 horsepower. You can put one on the two rear wheels of a truck and you can be tooling down the road with 500 horsepower here. Now, by the way, when I turn this unit on, I'm getting 70 pounds per square inch. I'm not going to take the time to get a volunteer because you know I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't true anyway. Got 70 pounds per square inch, and now all I have to do is just turn this thing and the truck tire starts running. Now, if the truck tire will roll at 70 pounds a square inch, what would it do at 2,000 pounds per square inch? 2,000 PSI would give me a lot more, but what about this? This one is designed to run at 5,000 PSI. Where would I get 5,000 PSI? If I take that panel right over there, I take a refrigerant, I put it in the panel, sit it outside, the pressures will build up to 400 pounds per square inch. Right there, the gas, Freon gas or refrigerant gas in that panel, 400 PSI. I know that because we kept popping all the nipples on it. Now, by the way, 400 PSI, if I ran that into an intensifier and I could multiply it 15 to 1, what's 15 times 400? 15 times 400 is about 7,500 pounds per square inch. Now, this thing runs at 5,000 pounds per square inch. That would be more pressure than we would need to be able to drive this motor to turn this truck tire. By the way, if you were rolling down the road with this truck on here and you wanted to stop, let me show you the best brake you could ever find. Now, here it is right here. Just reverse the hydraulic fluid, but if you're going to apply that brake, you better have your seat belt on. Otherwise, you're going to be through the windshield. Now, let's shut this off and set it up the way you want me to. You all set to go? We're going to let Big Mike test the torque on this engine. Okay, now this is a torque wrench, just like the one we already used, and you know how big it goes. And so all we're going to do at 70 PSI, we're going to see how much torque we got on that torque wrench there. You ready, Mike? Okay, you ready with the camera? All right, go ahead. It buried the needle, didn't it? And so lots of torque on that engine. This unit right here would drive a truck with 500 horsepower on both sides, and all I would need is refrigerant in those panels and a set of intensifiers. Where would I be able to put those panels on a truck? How about the side of the truck? I could put them on this side of the truck, I could put them on that side of the truck, and so as we're driving through the air, I've got them on the top of the truck and the sides of the truck. I could be taking the energy from the air to drive the truck from the energy I'm taking out of the air I'm passing through. And by the way, if you know anything about convection, you know that the faster we go, the more energy transfer we would get in a given period of time. The faster we go, the faster we could go. I could do exactly the same thing, by the way, with choo-choo trains. Slap the panels up on the backside, on the side of the cars, the box cars, and then take the energy from the air the box cars are traveling through and be able to apply all of that energy to the torque of the wheels of the box cars. A train that pulls a box car, by the way, uses 76 horsepower per box car, and this would give us plenty of energy. Actually, an engine a little bit bigger than this one right here, a motor a little bit bigger than this one right here, and the first demonstration would power a box car. So we can run the trains with no coal and no fossil fuels and no diesel or anything else. And we also could run the trucks with no diesel, no fossil fuels from energy we take out of the air, with a hydraulic process, with a low temperature phase change process, with a Brown's gas process. Are you beginning to get the picture here?
Well, here we are now standing in front of the adiabatic bicoannular reactor. It's a little bit considerably bigger than the one you'd have in your home. This isn't the size you'd have inside of your home, but here's the feeder over here, and this is the size of a unit that would do a few million BTUs an hour for a motel. This is Bill Norberg here. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Okay, Bill Norberg works in our research and development department here in our facility, and he's feeding some green grass. You see this right here? Green grass, fresh cut today. Just like what you went out and mowed your lawn. So now you can get heat out of green grass. What else you got over there?
Well, we got some hickory smoke chips.
Okay,
Hickory smoke chips.
Okay, hickory smoke chips. So you know what this is? This is the stuff that you make smoke with in your barbecue. See if we can make some smoke up here. Throw a couple of them things in there, and now I'll tell you what. What other kind of chips you got over there?
Got some.
Oh, chocolate chips. Okay, let's take some chocolate chips and throw them in there.
Cookies.
Okay? I'll just dump some of them things in there. Yeah. Now, what other kind of chips you got down there? Potato chips within a bag there?
Yeah, we have some potato chips there.
Okay, now how about potato chips? So it burns everything from wood chips to chocolate chips to potato chips.
We even have some other.
Okay, you got some other kind of chips there? What kind of chip is that?
Looks like cow chips to me.
Wood chips, potato chips, chocolate chips, and even buffalo chips. All right, buffalo chips. What else you got you can put down that thing there? How about some coal? Let's take some black coal over here. Now you see all the smoke billowing out of the top of this thing. I mean, the EPA would shut us down right away, right? Throw some black old coal in there. Show them the black coal here, the camera.
Here we go.
Okay, black coal. Throw it in there. Get a bunch of it there. Okay, get some, what else you got we can throw down there?
Some walnut shells.
Walnut shells. Okay, now we're going to throw some walnut shells in here. Handful of walnut shells.
Ground up walnut.
Ground up walnut shells. Okay, how about those eggshells? You got eggshells over there? So we got chips and we got shells. We can do chips. Okay, some eggs. Okay, the old garbage right down the old chute here. Hey, I saw this sandwich sitting up here. What do you think? Tuna fish sandwich. Mmm, delicious.
Put it in.
Chuck it in there. Make some electricity. This is the only way that you can use these things. Chuck them in there.
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. Throw some cigarettes in there. Hey, I'll throw a few more cigarettes in there. Got anything else we can burn here? Throw some more grass, green grass in there. Hey, what do you got over there? What's that thing over there? That box. Horse biscuits. Here, we got some horse biscuits. Okay? Horse manure. Well, by golly, I can tell you one thing. Well, this thing is hot. I mean, really hot. Now, let's get back over to the back end of this thing and let's find out what we got over here on this end. And we got a gentleman down here, a pyromaniac, a guy who knows all about pyro stuff. And fire, he's into measuring temperatures, I mean hot temperatures. Let me introduce him to you. What's your name there?
I'm David Kramer.
David Kramer. And David, what are you down here to do?
I'm here to help you measure the internal temperature on the adiabatic bicoannular reactor using a optical parameter that measures the radiant energy in the infrared portion of the spectrum coming from the inside through the window to our unit. This unit is one of the best infrared units on the market. It's computer calibrated to NBS traceable standards.
Whatever he said, it impressed the heck out of me, and I'll tell you what. Now, this thing right over here, what kind of thing is this?
Well, this is a digital readout that gives us the measured temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Right now, we're sitting at about 2770, as you can see.
2770. Now, what is 2770? You talking about degrees Fahrenheit?
Yes, sir, degrees Fahrenheit. I wouldn't trouble anyone with centigrade.
You mean to tell me that this thing is 2,770 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yes, sir.
The numbers from this are showing only about 400 watts. When I let it run for 20 seconds, it counted how much energy was in there. But 400 watts is not even 1 horsepower.
Remember, there's no grounds in this system. Strictly electrons. I explained to you earlier. Instead of forcing atoms down through a solid material, the system is set up so that it is already charged. It's just running down an empty tube. There's no restriction.
What's the energy that's coming through these wires? What you're saying that this required 5 horsepower to run, which probably is the case.
Yeah, that's standard.
What's actually going into this is not what's running this. You know, I understand what you're saying, that this is generating more than what's coming out of here. But what's going into here, we're not getting 5 horsepower going into this, or 3 or whatever.
Or even 3, right, yeah, you're not going
This is rated at 3 and this won't even run 5 here.
That's why you're not getting heat. Everything okay, like I said.
That's why a little different than I even thought over the phone.
That's why I demonstrated the magnetic flux field. Okay. Let's charge for it. Good. More here? No, that's right out of the other way. That's really good.
Okay. 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 The rule is Turn your back, Louie. Contact. Running. Yep, good.
18
That's good. One shot.
to 16.
That's good. The coil's getting hot.
Oh, that what it is.
Yeah, it's going to drop down to around 15 and the coil gets warm. Okay, well, I'm going to have to fire it up, so let's pump the water through there.
That's what they used to do in this way.
Contact! Right, yeah. I don't know if we start on the fuel or not. I didn't turn the pump on, so. Okay, everybody want to try with the quarters.
This engine does not burn oil. It has no metal-to-metal friction as in most combustion engines with surface bearings and piston rings, and it has a patented ramjet combustion and steam turbine tornado power source that burns virtually pollution-free and actually oxygenates the air we breathe. The prototype has less than 35 parts with only 3 moving parts. Other technological breakthroughs in the engine are its fluid drive transmission with its variable pitch propeller weighing less than 20 pounds. This video presentation will give you an inside view of the inner workings of the engine. The ramjet with the glow plug and fuel injection. This is where the tornado begins, with the explosion of the gases propelling them in a spiral direction to the intake port of the primary turbine, as pictured here. The back plate of the ramjet, with its spiraled surface, begins the swirling effect of the gases. The intake and exhaust port of the turbine housing is where the fuel mixture with the steam exits and goes to the secondary turbo, which goes to the turbine. Notice the half-moon shapes on the inside of the turbine housing. This is the rear hub of the engine and transmission with its output shaft that transfers the power to the differential. This is the inner turbine, the primary turbine. Notice the half-moon blades on the turbine propeller. Again, notice the half-moon shapes on the blades with our special airfoil design. Notice the inside of the turbine. This is the housing for the fluid drive transmission. The fluid stays on the inside of this area and balances the engine. Again, the inside of the turbine housing. The variable pitch propeller rides within this circumference, and there is no metal-to-metal friction. This is the variable pitch propeller and its components. Notice the key shaft on the propeller. This is what transfers the power as the blades open to the output shaft. This is our hydraulic pump, another one of our patented devices. There's no metal-to-metal friction. Notice the ease of installation. The only bearings on this engine: the fluid drive pump, the primary turbine with its housing for the variable pitch propeller, the variable pitch propeller, which rides inside of this chamber. The second turbine is bolted on, which encompasses that, and this is the front of the generator and the starter of the engine, bolting on the turbines. There are 2 opposing turbines. There are 2 opposing ramjets, as pictured here. The completed engine. This engine weighs about 175 pounds. Our prototype developed approximately 1,000 to 1,400 horsepower, capable of 0 to 30,000 RPMs in less than 1 second. The turbine, weighing 100 pounds, reaches this speed. The engine is virtually pollution-free. As the steam exhaust exits the engine, our special separator removes the steam and turns it back into water and recycles it back into the engine. The remainder of the exhaust goes through a carbon filter after it has been cooled down enough and then exits to the atmosphere. We are planning on building 24 prototypes, from lawnmowers to aircraft engines. The ramjet is the area that the gases initially explode, forming the swirling formation into the turbine chamber. The gases enter the turbine chamber, where they are picked up by the airfoil blades and are moved over to the exhaust port, where they are then transferred to the primary turbo. The exhaust gases are then spun at a high speed from the turbo into the secondary turbine, where this process is repeated. Simultaneously, on the opposite side of the engine, the same process has been repeated, at which time both of the turbos and both of the turbines are exhausting gases, which then go to our water separator, which takes the steam and turns it back into water, which is then recycled back into the engine. This is the point of entry of the water, which then turns to steam. The heat from the ramjets is what causes this steam, and this also is the propulsion where the tornado begins. Remember the airfoil blades with the half-moon shapes? The pressure goes to the point of least resistance. This is our ramjet tornado steam turbine engine.
Okay, no, I don't think you're quite there yet. You can use this if you want. How about that way? That okay? Big screen? Oh, if you're on a big screen, all right, now. So he developed a thing called the fourth law of motion. Now, what if you were able to take that action and that equal and opposite reaction, and take the reaction and apply that to the action? So the fourth law of motion says that you can not only get an action, but when you get a reaction, you can turn the reaction into the action in the same direction. So now you're getting energy from the action, and you're getting energy added to that from the reaction. That's kind of an interesting concept. Now, to explain it, you got a device like a motor, an electric motor. Like you'll notice here, an electric motor. You notice here another one. Here another one. You got 4 of them there. 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, you got a motor. Now you got a motor, and it's got an armature, and it's turning this way. It's causing a stator to turn this way. Now this isn't anything new. Got a motor, armature, and a stator. So you got the armature and the stator. Armature is going action, causing the stator to go this way. And over here, as this turns this way, it's causing this gear to go this way. So you got one gear going this way that's causing this gear to go this way. Do you see that? And so this gear is going the same way that this is going. So now the reaction is putting torque onto the same drive mechanism as the action. So now you're getting action, reaction into action, double action on that shaft. So that's the fourth law of motion. Now, over here, that's exactly what we would have here, is we have a little rotor in the middle here, and the motors are on the rotor, and the motors are applying torque in one direction and it's spinning in the opposite direction. It's called counter rotation. So you got rotation and counter-rotation. By the way, I can see a spiritual law in this too, something that Jesus Christ developed, something that nobody understood at first, and has been very hard to get people to understand, and that is when somebody comes and slaps you, that's the action, you don't react to them. Instead, you turn that around and you give them a positive action back. It kind of goes atypical the way we normally think. You hit me, I hit you back. That's action-reaction. That's the third law of motion. But if you hit me, instead, I absorb that, overcome it, turn it around, and send something back to you that's kind of neat, then we got the fourth law of motion. Or fourth law of emotion, let's call it. All right, now, I'm going to show you over here a little device. Now, this device was developed by Carini in our research lab. He actually did this 30 years ago, right after he ran this car that I'm going to show you. Right after he ran this car and proved to the world 30 years ago he could run these cars on very, very, very little electrical energy and little car batteries. They blew up his research lab, they blew up his house, and they blew up a little shack in the back. They blew it all up just in case he had something anywhere. They thought they blew up all the cars, but the fact of the matter is he had given the car to a friend of his to use and put it in his parking garage. So they didn't really get the car. Now, it definitely delivered a message to Carini at that point in time that somebody didn't want him to do this stuff, so he tucked his tail between his legs and he quit. Carini actually had an accident about a few months ago, and he died. When he died, he came back to life. Then he died again. When he died, he came back to life. Then he died a third time, and he came back to life a third time. And then when he got off the bed, he said, boy, the Lord must have something he wants me to do. The guy's 80 years old. Then he got a phone call from me saying, hi, I heard all about your fourth law of motion, etc. I think we're ready for you. Would you like to come and work with us and develop this? And he said, gee, I guess I know what God was trying to tell me I ought to be doing. And so he did come down here and work with us. Now, this is his device right here. It was a little device that shows the demonstration. It's a little wheel here and a wheel here, and they turn each other. That's the gears. On the back side, I got a belt. But the problem we had was that in running this, we burned out the motor. So you can smell the motor all burned out. Basically, I was going to demonstrate this for the crowd today, but actually you can come back on Saturday at our research lab and watch me demonstrate it then. So I can't demonstrate it for you now, but I have a videotape that has that all on video, and I'm going to let them put that in the video camera now. And I will let you see the counter-rotation test that we ran in our own research lab. Now, before you put that on, just put it in and stop. I'm going to show you the results. I don't care. I'm going to show you guys the results. Going to have to get over here, Mike, and hold that up if you would. I'm going to show you the results here, and then you can see it for yourself. So when you're watching it, you can confirm. I'll leave this up. You can confirm, yes, that's the number. Yes, that's the number. Yes, that's the number. Yes, that's the conclusion. Let me give you the conclusion, and that is we ran this motor two ways. One way without the belt on that made it counter-rotation. So we just had a device that was going around with a motor on it. It was just like any other motor making a wheel go around. When we tested it, we had 219 RPMs at 13 volts, 15.5 amps, 200 watts. Now to look at this, the easiest way is just say 219 RPMs. When you see the test, just say, what was the RPMs? 219. And then you see what was the watts, and you say 200. Because it doesn't matter what the volts and amps are, as long as the watts are 200, it's the same basic thing. Now we ran it, and we were applying on that little motor there 6 inches of torque, so 6 inch-pounds of torque. Now in this test, that's what we had. Then we hooked it up to counter-rotation. When we hooked it up to counter-rotation, we were then getting, instead of 219 RPMs, 438 RPMs, twice as many RPMs. We had 14 volts going in, 12 amps going in, 168 watts of power. So we were using less power for twice the RPMs, and instead of getting the same torque, we got 7.5 inch-pounds of torque, more torque than we had on the other test. So, for those technical people, more torque with less watts and twice the RPM. What am I saying to you? More than 2 to 1. As a matter of fact, when we calculate this, it comes to 2.9 units of energy out for 1 unit of energy going in, and that's due to the fourth law of motion. Now we'll see what we left on the table in science. Now Mike, we'll just hold that up there and we're going to go ahead and run this. You guys got it all set up there? I don't know if I rewound that or not, so if it looks weird, we'll just have to take a second to rewind it. Matter of fact, just shut it off at the beginning, because that one starts right at the very beginning. That's one of those weird things that I do that's weird, that I actually start at the beginning instead of somewhere in the middle. If it's still rewinding, we'll just have to wait for a second. I've been doing a powerful lot of talking in the last 2 days. Have I not? You guys, you poor dealers, have had to listen to an awful lot of information, so you probably should do this to your ears too. We back there yet? We got it rewound? All right, let's go.